My name is Renee Radabaugh. I am CEO, President, and Managing Director of Cuba Explorations, and I'm also President and Managing Director of Paragon Events. We are a 25-year-old event planning company, and I have over 30 years, sometimes it's so hard to say that, 30 years in the industry, and I do have a few of my team members in the audience who I'm very appreciative for having helped us put this together today. So Cuba. It's a fairly new venture for us, but we've been to Cuba a couple dozen times now, planning and putting together the programming so that we really do sort of design programs that are a deep dive into what Cuba has to offer. And then we're also very proud of the fact that we have about 71 programs on the books right now. So we really have taken the time to really get in there and get engaged and understand what's going on. So Cuba, why now? Well, I could talk about Cuba, why now for the rest of the afternoon, but I'm going to pick 4 areas. And those are really tourism, the media, and what we're hearing in the media, airlift, and destination. So the first is tourism. We're the only folks that are not going to Cuba right now. Tourism is alive in Cuba. You've got a lot of Canadian traffic, you've got the Asian population going, you've got the European population, and you've got some Americans who skirt down through the islands. But we're the only ones that aren't going there openly. Next is the media. We're hearing lots and lots out in the media, lots of white noise going on. Cuba is open. Well, Cuba really hasn't changed much, and Cuba relations haven't changed much, and they're not going to until both places decide. So while we're trying, and you can now bring a few cigars and you can bring a bottle of rum home, other than that, not a lot has changed. You still have to travel with a company like Cuba Explorations who has a people-to-people license. So next is airlift. So airlift is growing. Havana Air, for instance, has 56 flights a month. So they're a charter company out of Havana. They go to 3 different cities, Camagüey, Santa Clara, and Havana. You also have other charter companies who are doing anywhere from 5 to 10 flights a month that are going into Cuba, and we're hoping to see more flights going in there. Now, destinations. Havana's a must. It's a beautiful city with great architecture and beautiful people, lots of entertainment and art and music. There's Santa Clara. So as you may or may not know, when traveling to Cuba, Americans still cannot go on vacation. You cannot go on vacation to a beach or resort. But if you travel to Santa Clara area, which is up in the beach resort area, they have keys up there, kind of like our Key Biscayne, and you go and participate in a people-to-people activity, guess what? You can stay at a resort on the beach. But it has to be tied to the people-to-people activity. Vanales is a beautiful countryside with the mountains where they grow tobacco. Camagüey has the sugar mills and that type of thing. So there is so much to see and a beautiful area to experience. There are 12 approved reasons, and I'm going to skirt this real quick because the 12 approved reasons are what your license, your OFAC, license allows you to travel, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But for the most part, you're going to care about 4 travel programs through your P2P. Public performances, clinics, baseball, things like that, professional research, students going over there to study, or professional meetings. So that's kind of where you'll fall into as meeting professionals, as well as tying into the education and cultural piece of it. So the cultural piece of it is really where most of our programming comes in because, again, we're putting so much effort into really kind of immersing ourselves with the people. And then the humanitarian projects. But something to keep in mind, when you are going over there with a people-to-people program, you're going to hear words like required, but that should not scare you because you're not going to Cuba to sit in a meeting room and just do a meeting. You want to get in there and immerse yourself with the people and really enjoy everything that it has to offer. So, Cuba's open for meeting business for the most part. It was funny when we were writing this, Cuba's open for meeting business. Kinda, well it is, but it is kinda. So things that you need to think about when planning a meeting. They're not ready for a super savvy technology meeting. They don't have the bandwidth for it yet. They don't, Wi-Fi is spotty. The electrical may be a problem to support this kind of set, but keep in mind that they do have screens, projectors, audio, video, and you can have a very good meeting in Cuba. Another thing, transportation. Transportation, surprisingly, group transportation is very good. They have very good buses, air-conditioned, well-maintained. The drivers follow some of the same stringent guidelines that we follow here with no drinking and driving, that type of thing. Public transportation is crowded because many Cubans do not own a car. Public taxis, government taxis are available, and then you have the ever-present classic cars who operate as taxis as well. So in the picture, you'll see to the left, this is the Saratoga. This hotel is where Jay-Z and Beyonce stayed. In the middle is the Malia brand. So the Malia Hotel brand, there are probably 9 or 10 Malias. And the Malia Habana and the Malia Cohiba are both large meeting properties in Cuba. And the other is the Nacional. So some of you who have been to the Breakers would recognize this. It's the same architect that designed the Breakers, am I in your way? Designed the Nacional as well. So ideal group sizes for meetings, there are ballrooms there that can accommodate 500 to 1,000 people. We don't feel like they're quite ready for a group that large, but when you look, 40 to 60 rooms, 80 to 100 guests, great. Couple of transports, 20 to 30 rooms, 40 to 60 guests. This could be a buyout in one of the more boutique hotels. 15 to 25 rooms, great sweet spot for incentives. I'm going to sit here for just a minute and then I'll come off of it because you can't really see the chart. But the Malia brands will allow for approximately 800 people in a meeting room. The Nacional is more of that boutique, and it at one time had a casino. So when the Nacional Hotel, if you go to visit it, it has a fabulous bar and beautiful pools at these properties, and it sits right on the Malecón looking out over the water, and it hosts a lot of government meetings. So hotel contract concessions, U.S. versus Cuba. So first of all, in the photo, this is, most of the restaurants are all inclusive for breakfast, and they have beautiful buffets, very nice food and beverage. The bottom property on the left is the NH Capri, so it's the new, most recently renovated. It was Meyer Lansky's hotel, which was the mob lawyer. So they spent the last couple years renovating it, very sleek, very pristine. It's part of the NH group. And then the one on the right represents sort of the typical Cuban 3-star, 3.5-star hotel lobby. So hotel contract concessions. So you have to think in terms of your typical RFP. You're not going to be able to go and get 1 per 40 or 50 comps. You're not going to get upgrades to suites at the rate. You're not going to get free Wi-Fi. Unless you're on one of the concierge levels at a couple of the hotels, then you can negotiate that into the contract. But what you can get is, depending on your provider, like for instance for us, when we put together a program, 1 per 20, we comp you on the land portion. So you could anticipate getting a comp every 20 participants for the land. The other piece of this is, too, that we're typically offering, industry standard commissions for travel. So I don't want you to get scared off because you can't get, 10% commission on the rooms or any of that standard there. When you buy a land package, you're typically buying an all-inclusive. So you're getting your people-to-people activities, your food and beverage, your transportation, English-speaking guides, and then guides from the U.S. as well. So planning a meeting in Cuba and what to consider. So you should permit 2 to 3 hours a day for people-to-people activity. And you should also keep in mind that you want this. You're not going there to hang out in a ballroom, so you want the people-to-people piece of it. So again, don't let the word required scare you. If you have any super restrictive dietary needs like celiac, you have to approach with caution because they're just not ready with dual kitchens or really kind of managing those types of things. ADA. The ADA requirements, again, it's an older city. Some of the streets are in disrepair. Many of the really wonderful Paladars have 3 floors up, so you're walking. All of the restaurants have elevators and that type of thing. Be prepared to buy all-inclusive and beware of canned programs. So again, this goes back to making sure that you work with somebody that understands what you want and what you want to give to your customers. Do you have advanced audiovisual needs? We touched on that. Be careful of that. Make sure that you set your expectations for audiovisual. And what should meeting planners look for when they're searching for a provider? You need somebody that understands the meeting planning industry, but more than that, you need somebody who has really experienced Cuba, that they haven't just bought a program and now they're selling it to you, and they really can kind of blend your needs with what Cuba has to offer. Incorporating the people-to-people with the meeting program. So you've heard me say this a few times. So part of our license is a people-to-people license. So what we're doing is basically finding activities. So for us as meeting planners, and people in the meetings industry, we're always looking for corporate responsibility, right? One of the things we're always trying to introduce into our program, well, Cuba's been doing this. Their corporate responsibility is their people-to-people program. It's their community responsibility. They're taking care of their own people. So for instance, this picture on the right, this is one of our staff dancing at a program. So there's an area called Hamel Alley. It's a local artist, and his neighborhood was really very blight. So he started painting it, and he started bringing in local artists, and he started teaching kids art. And now it's become this vibrant people-to-people program. They practice white magic, and these are dancers that dance and perform during your people-to-people exchange. So it's something so much more. And there are other people-to-people programs that you can participate in where kids were picking trash up on the beach. So a local artist decided to teach them how to use the trash to make art, and now they make paper that they use and do these adorable little books. So keep that in mind. Planning group travel. So your visa, your passport must be good for 6 months after travel. We issue your visa with your airline tickets, so your visas are taken care of there. OFAC, the Office of Foreign Asset Control, is who governs us. So we design programs, people that you use for people-to-people, design programs that are going to help your program fit what the government expects it to look like. Health insurance. In Cuba, they have a very good healthcare system, very good university system. And part of your travel includes healthcare while in Cuba. So if you get sick, the doctor visits you at your hotel room and provides you your medicine. And if you have to get checked into a hospital, that's included as well. Keep in mind you should always have travel insurance in case you had to get out of the country for some reason. So think in terms of that. That's smart for any travel program. Safety first. Cuba happens to be very safe. One of the things, it's like any large city. You have a little bit of worry about pickpocket, but you wouldn't wander around any large city alone by yourself. You'd travel in a small group of people. Water. The water is potable. It's safe for brushing your teeth. It's heavily chlorinated, so we recommend drinking bottled water. Wi-Fi. It's spotty. You want to ask when booking a hotel if they have Wi-Fi and how much it is. It can sometimes be as much as $4 to $8 an hour. Some hotels have what they call the level, which is their concierge, and you can sometimes secure Wi-Fi as part of that. Your cell phones, once you leave the hotel and your cell phones aren't going to work, phone calls are expensive. Keep in mind that you have things like Viber and WhatsApp and Skype that you can always use when you have the Wi-Fi available. And then the money. So you can exchange your money for every $100. You're going to get 87 CUC. CUC is the convertible currency, and that's the currency that we use. So the local Cuban population uses the CUP, or the peso, has a totally different value. You are not allowed to spend the peso, but Cubans are allowed to accept the CUC. So you'll keep that in mind. You can exchange your money at the hotel, the airport, banks, anywhere you want, and when you're leaving the country, you can exchange the money as well, leaving the 13% behind. Cuba, why now? So we start at Cuba, why now, and we end with Cuba, why now? So I think it's important for you to realize that it is a vibrant, exciting place, and there's so much opportunity to see it now and to really enjoy the people. There's great music, great art. The culinary scene is alive. Do any of you know what a paladar is? Some will, yeah? And then, do you know how the paladar came to be? So a paladar is a word to describe a food establishment, a restaurant. So the paladars started as, you had government-owned restaurants, and the local people would set up 2 or 3 tables in their homes, and you could go and dine in their home and then have a small meal and pay them. Well, now there's such a burgeoning culinary market there, and there's so many chefs coming from around the world that paladars have now turned into these really fabulous restaurants, and are really kind of taking over the scene. So it's really something special, but I think they'll always be called Paladars. So I guess the answer is Cuba is unique. It's a 45-minute plane ride from Miami. It's hot, and Cuba's open for business. Thank you very much.